couple of more thoughts here. The galaxies are spinning, but the stars in the middle are going faster than the stars at the outside. If they were billions of years old, the galaxies would have lost their spiral shape by now. Did you know the Earth is like a big magnet? And magnets constantly lose their strength. The Earth's magnet has lost 6% of its strength in the last 150 years. Well, the Earth's magnetic field is getting weaker, which means that it used to be stronger. All over the world we find petrified trees standing up, running through multiple layers. By the way, how many have ever gone into a cave and the guide said, don't touch the formations, they take millions of years to form? You ever heard that before? Yep. If you go to Carlsbad, they'll say it took 250 million years. Then why are there 50-inch stalactites growing under the Lincoln Memorial? Here's a picture of Niagara Falls. Notice what the textbook says. Boys and girls, the rocky ledge above Niagara Falls has been eroding for nearly 9,900 years. It's actually moving back 4.7 feet a year, according to the museum guide. I have a question. If the Earth is millions of years old, why hasn't it moved all the way back to Lake Erie by now? Sahara Desert has a prevailing wind pattern. The wind almost always blows the same way. Now this creates a problem because the hot air comes off the desert and kills the trees next door, and that area becomes desert. The process is called a desertification. Well, Sahara Desert is growing about 4 miles a year. They just finished quite a big study on Sahara Desert and said, you know, folks, we think Sahara is about 4,000 years old. You know, when they drill into the ground, sometimes they hit oil. The oil's under incredible pressure down there, up to 20,000 pounds per square inch. Well, the rock can't handle that pressure. I mean, the oil pressure is way above the level of the surrounding, just the weight of the overlying rock. They said, well, you see these rings on here? Dark and light and dark and light. Sort of like tree rings. I said, yep, I see them. They said, you see, Mr. Hovind, what happens up in Greenland, in the summer the snow melts a little bit, and it refreezes and makes clear ice. Shows up dark here. In the winter, the snow packs, doesn't get a chance to freeze, or doesn't get a chance to melt, and so it shows up light here because it's compressed and has air bubbles in it. So they said what these are is annual rings, and they represent summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter. They said, now we counted these annual rings in the deepest hole we ever drilled, which was 10,000 feet, and there were 135,000 annual rings. I said, fellas, aren't you assuming those are annual rings? See, they did not know about the Lost Squadron, but some airplanes ran out of gas during World War II and landed in Greenland. I talked to the guy who dug the airplane out. His name is Bob Carden. I said, Bob, explain this to me now. Those airplanes were in the ice for 48 years. They were 263 feet down. That's 5.5 feet a year of ice on top of the planes. The deepest hole drilled to core sample is 10,000 feet. If you divide that by 5.5, that's 1,800 years. Now, I know the deeper layers get squished, you know, glacial fern and all that stuff, so really 4,400 is plenty of time to allow for all the ice at the North and South Pole. So I went and met Bob and said, Bob, explain this to me. What about these ice rings? I said, when you melted down to get to the airplane, did you notice rings in the ice, you know, dark and light and dark and light? He said, well, yeah, there are many hundreds of them. I said, how do you get hundreds of annual rings in 48 years? He said, those aren't annual rings. They don't represent summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter. They represent warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. And you can get 10 of those in 1 week up there in Greenland. Now, either he's ignorant or he's a liar. I hope he's just ignorant, because ignorance can be fixed. Stupid is forever. This article in 1999 said last weekend the world's population topped 6 billion. In 1985, there were 5 billion people on this planet. In 1800, there was 1 billion people. But the world is not overcrowded. Don't fall for that overcrowded propaganda that's in the textbooks these days. Did you know the entire world's population would fit inside Jacksonville, Florida? That city has 25 billion square feet. But back when Jesus was here, there was about 250 million people on the planet. The population growth curve looks like the whole thing started about 4,400 years ago. Now, if you believe in evolution, you have a serious problem. Because you think man has been here for 3 million years. You realize in 3 million years, the population would have grown. Right now, we would have 150,000 people per square inch. By the way, there are some idiots in our leadership who would like our world government, our world population reduced to 500 million. They think there are too many people and we're hurting Mother Earth and we need to reduce the population. They've already got the whole world divided up for their biodiversity treaty. The red areas are areas for animals only, no humans allowed. Why are the oldest languages in the world only 5,000 years old? And the oldest languages are modern and sophisticated and complete, sometimes many more times more complex than English today. Most Americans think the earth is less than 10,000 years old and God made it. But even if a bunch of scientists believe something, that doesn't make it true. There was a time when the scientists thought the planets go around the Earth. I'm not against schools, I'm not against teachers, and I'm not against science. I think in science class we ought to be teaching science. You know, things that we can observe and test and demonstrate. A lot of teachers don't seem to understand it is perfectly fine for you to teach creation science in a public school. There has never been a law against it. Supreme Court said in 1963, it is certainly, may be said, the Bible is worthy of study for its historic and literary qualities. Nothing we said in talking about the decision says you can't teach the Bible. It's not against the First Amendment to teach the Bible in a public school. In 1980, the Supreme Court said, the Bible may constitutionally be used in an appropriate study of history, civilization, ethics, comparative religion, or the like. 8th Circuit Court ruled 1980, you can use the Bible if it advances